Hi there. This is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Today we're going to talk about, the thing got in the way. Why don't men emote like women? Such a fascinating topic. And I
This
think,
one,
go ahead.
I'll say this one will be rich, and I can definitely add value because I've been through this journey, so I can speak of experience. So please
You're
go ahead.
one of those. And I am one of the ones before I took a pledge in my 40s that created a lot of the ways that men didn't emote to me. So I think we can talk about both sides of the street with this one for sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Because if you just say it out loud, generally we can emote differently. And neither's better or worse or good or bad. I mean, there really can be different levels and different reasons and different amounts and different pacing. I mean, there really can be that in general. And then certainly whoever's in their masculine and feminine can go even more haywire. But if we just get down to the nitty gritty, which is, I think, what's going to happen a lot in this conversation of if both people were being real about their feelings and knew how to honor us women more, we need to learn how to honor men, it would go so much more smoothly. So hopefully that's what we're going to talk about today, that people will get the gist of how to at least know, gosh, there might be another way to look at this, right?
Well, I want to go generality first as well, just to set the bar, so to speak. And that is really that in societal terms, women are looked upon as being more emotional, and men are looked upon as being more either stoic or violent. That's kind of the range that men seem to play in. And I want to reference something. I don't think we spoke about this before on another show, but I remember that there was a movie out this going back several years ago, and then I saw a preview for it. I never saw the movie itself because I don't know if it got done. But the preview came out, gotta be 8-10 years ago, called the Masks We Live In, which basically talks about how boys, and this is why we're going to see this conversation, why boys are basically told so much impactful terms when we're growing up, that we're told basically to man up, don't, big boys don't cry, don't be a sissy, don't be a wimp, tough it out, grin and bear it, all these things that boys are told. And frankly, we're told in a way to become men when we're not even ready to be men. So we as boys, I would say in some ways, have our own emotional growth stunted because we're already going to conform to the model of being in this box that what a man is called, a man is meant to be. And I went through the same thing, except I took a different route. And I'll speak more to that when we get to that point. But I grew up recognizing my own family when I was younger, that I couldn't be like my dad, who was very stoic and emotionally stuffed down, because it just didn't make sense to me. And I was close to my mum. So I was more emotive to a degree, even though I paid a price, because I've said before on this thing, I got bullied in high school and pushed around because I didn't conform to being a tough boy with the other boys. And so I didn't necessarily follow the path of most boys into men for whatever reasons. I don't know if I had it wasn't something I read or something I was taught. It just was innate in me about following a different path. And I've been through a lot of journey as an adult in the personal development work I've done to really understand my own emotional makeup and how that applies to men in general as well, and also to women. So I have some things to contribute to this conversation.
Oh, I just knew we were going to get lots and lots of information from your personal journey and your personal experiences, because we're talking about men in the title. Why don't men emote like women?
Yeah.
And those are a lot of the baseline. When you think about when you're young, you don't have any filtering, you don't have any life experience. There's no way that you can compare or contrast anything. You just take in what you hear. And those people that are in charge of you are in charge of your food and your clothing and your shelter and whatever affection amount they give you. And so you're always trying to do the bob and weave about, well, what is it that's going to keep them happy enough with me and not too upset with me? And if that's the message that boys get frequently from, could be mom and or dad, then you do just tamp down your real emotions. I mean, everybody has them. I mean, that's why babies cry and babies laugh. They let you know when they're upset. They let you know right away when they're happy. And then all that maneuvering and brainwashing happens depending on what sex you were born and the people that you were now living in the house with. Gets
Right.
all mushed around and screwed up.
Well, yeah. In fact, to speak to that point about that, the ones we live with and our families, we as boys will generally look to our fathers as the role model because that's innate in our DNA, like to look to that male figurehead, so to speak, of how to be. And so for many generations, that stoicism and that suppression of emotions has been handed down, not necessarily as a given, like, this is the way it should be, son. It's like, it's almost unspoken. And so what we're talking about here could change the course of society because we could actually help men realize there's more to life than what we've been doing up to this point. And so I hope this conversation is going to reach a lot of people. So yes, let's dive in.
So my dad, I've not really talked about him very much. He generally went between loud, mad, fast, loud, mad, or crying. My dad cried. My parents actually went to therapy. They took my brother to therapy, and the therapist said, it's not him, it's the two of you. So they went to couples and individual. We had lots of therapy in our family, which I'm really grateful for. And it was the very first, the guy that was his therapist started a TV show on some obscure station, and they would have group therapy, and everybody would cry. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad's crying on TV. I just knew I couldn't go to school the next day and nobody'd seen it. But I was so embarrassed and mortified because in my world, that didn't happen. And there was not a lot of in between. So I kept thinking, well, yelling's better because this feels really awful to me because it doesn't feel strong. It doesn't feel masculine. I don't feel protected. And he's doing it in public, and you're such a tender age teenager where you just know that your life is over if your friends saw this, which nobody ever did. But it was a lot on me and so the three of us, I have a younger brother and a younger sister, we were all had different impressions about it that we've talked as adults because we didn't talk about it a lot as kids. And so yours was one way and mine was completely couldn't be more opposite back and forth, and you never knew what was going to happen and why.
Yeah, I mean, you come from England, and that sort of traditional value stuff, which I don't know if it's still true as much nowadays as it was back when I was born, my upbringing. I think I'm kind of sounding old now. But the recognition is that looking at my uncles and grandfathers and fathers, the men in my family, and even my brother, were definitely less emotive as an innate way of being. So when you said like your father cried, it's like, I don't remember my dad crying ever except one time, which was when at my mother's funeral. That was the only time, And there may have been other times when I wasn't at home because like my parents, I left home when I was younger, but I never experienced that from him being emotive. So it's something I didn't have as an example growing up. So I didn't necessarily have that model. And also back in England in that time, therapy wasn't very well known. So that was definitely an American thing looking back at that point in time. So your parents' path and my parents' path is very different.
Oh, for certain. When I listen to your life, I like, oh yeah, no, mine, there was nothing except my grandfather came on the boat from England. That's the only connection we have. But no, we grew up in very different families in so many levels and ways. But it makes us this unique people that we get to come and be here.
Exactly.
So the other thing is you mentioned that when a man has feelings about something, you generally you're only given 2 buckets to put them in.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when we women have like 412 options. We have the whole feeling wheel. We have between each of the big things, we have like 13 little things in between it that we could have a whole range, and we could have 3 or 4 at the same time, or maybe 10 at the same time. And you have these 2 that don't fit every situation. What do you do with that, Barry?
Well, it's not even those 2. It's almost like the fact is that the emotions are like a country that the women are comfortable in. It's their native land, and we're visitors who don't know the language. That's kind of how it feels. So emotions to us really are in some ways alien, even though, and said, because when we're young, as you said, babies cry and show joy and everything else. When we're very young, we have that emotional spectrum too, but we basically are ignoring or suppressing or basically hiding it away when we become an adult. So those emotions, they're in there, but we don't even know they're in there. It's almost it's been so long they've just become atrophied, so we don't use them very much. And the challenge is that it isn't something we can fit into two buckets, like you're saying. I was afraid of anger, frankly, so I very rarely got angry in my life because it was such a divisive energy inside of me and externally too. So I didn't have that bucket really available to me because it pushed people away. So I hated using it. I didn't want to go there as much as possible. And so what I would do was internalize, which wasn't good either, because I suffered quite a bit of, inner turmoil because I didn't know how to express it outward in an effective way, or even in an ineffective way. I didn't want to do it that way either. And so it was the challenge. And it's, I know there's a joke about saying, when you ask a man how he's doing, he just says, fine. You ask a woman, she'll tell you everything. Because that's the difference, is the emotional range that men generally express is different. So it's why we don't emote like women do. So the work we can do, and again, I'll talk about when we get further into conversation, is something I'm very passionate about because it really changed my life in a very powerful, positive way, which I hope other men do as well. But also, as you said earlier in the conversation, women have a part to play in this as well, because the challenge is, and as Alison Armstrong says, we know both well, is that, women think that men are just hairy women, meaning that the women oftentimes think that men should be emotionally facile as much as they are, and we're not.
And you're holding back, and you're misbehaving. You're not doing it on purpose.
Right. And so it's against, so we do something against her, even though we don't know what to do, and we're not even sure we do. It's like and so the miscommunication and the misunderstanding happens is so challenging, because unfortunately there's this disparity of what women are expecting and what women actually want and what men are available to give, because we don't recognize what's happening. We're oblivious because we're in the middle of our own stuff. And it is challenging. And the article I sent you, just one thing, part of that is that women, because they live in the land of emotion, so to speak, they have that, they're native to the language, have more facility to be able to move through it more easily, more effectively. We don't get into our emotions easily. That's one thing, because they've been atrophied, they've been stuck down. So it takes time for us to get to, one, to feel the emotions, and two, to express and explain what the hell they are, because we don't know half the time,
So it's one of the things I want to bring up that I've been teaching so much lately to women, and it's so interesting because when I teach it in groups of men and women together, generally everybody laughs. It doesn't feel like I'm picking on anybody. I'm just like informing. So I said, you want to know what's going on with a guy. You have a question. You want to find out something about him, what he's thinking, what's going on. So you think of this question. You probably thought of it for a while, and you've readjusted it, and you've run it by a couple of your friends, because it's what we do. And so we go, I want to ask you a question. And we do. And you really want to answer. You want to think about it. You want to, because this is your first time of hearing it. So you really want to be the best answer. And when we go fake, no, never fake. You want to give the real, honest. You're going to think it through. You're going to look at all the options. And for us women, while you're thinking, even if it's only 30 seconds, it feels like an hour to us.
Oh, God, yeah.
This is why everybody laughs. So we get impatient. And I have to tell you, until I got into my 40s, I was excellent at this. So we think, oh, he didn't understand the question, so I'm going to ask him again, and I'll change some of the words because he'll understand it better. I know, it's the best story. So then what happens for him is we started, and he's like, wait, she's talking again? Oh, is it a new question? Is it an old question? Oh, there's some new words, and now I've missed some of them, but okay, I think I have the gist. Okay, I really do. And he's thinking this in his head. Okay, all right. She stopped talking. I'm going to think about this new question. And it's going to take me a little bit longer because I'm really going to process it, because I want to make sure I blended it all. And he's thinking really hard. He really went to, and now, oh my God, it might have been 15 more seconds. And now we think, well, geez, I have to ask it again. And I'm going to change a whole bunch of the words. And then what I've learned is, for me personally and professionally, both people get frustrated and give up. So
Yeah.
we don't get our answer, and you couldn't even come up with an answer in the middle of all these words. So I use Alison Armstrong's instructions that I tell women that I had to do myself. Ask the question as concise as you can with a point of you'd like an answer, and the invisible uptake. And I'll tell you, not so much nowadays because I've been doing it for a while, but in the beginning, I would physically bite my lip
Yeah.
because Barry, I get what it's like on your side, and I need you to address it because on our side, it's torture.
Yeah.
We really, it's so hard to wait. It's so hard to wait. The waiting feels like torture to us.
Mhm.
I know it's terrible, but it's the truth. So I give us lots of things to think about. Make out a list, keep thinking of all the nice things he does do, and bite your lip because
Yeah.
you may not open your mouth until he says something. And I'm going to tell you my whole teaching, and then I'd love to hear the guy's side. So I
Please.
said, generally, when he opens his mouth, he will probably say one of three things. One, he'll give you the answer because you waited to get it. And then when he stops talking, wait some more because it's really amazing how much more you will add if we don't jump in. Not always. And if you're done, you will tell us you're done. You're really good about that. So we're still biting our lip and waiting until we see, are you finished? Because the stuff that men tell me because I wait has been remarkable. So that's
Mm.
what happens first. The second thing is he might say, I need a little clarification. Could you talk a little bit about it? And so short answer about only what he asked, no more details, and then quiet again.
Yeah.
Or my late husband did this so much when we were dating. I'm going to think about it. I really need to think about it. I need a little more time. I'll get back to you next time. And because I'd been practicing this before I met him, I waited. And every time, the next time we saw each other, he'd say, I've been thinking about, and he'd give me an answer every time. Well thought out, interesting, with maybe more information that I'd even asked for. So I tell women, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot with the interrupting and the changing and the being impatient and not
Yeah.
waiting until you finished. So please give me your feedback, Mr. X chromosome, Y chromosome person.
Need anything. Well, the reality is it's a speed thing. Is again, as I said earlier, women's access to emotions is immediate. It's right there. It's in the moment. So when a woman feels emotion, it's right there. We have to climb a mountain to get to ours, so to speak. So for us to get emotional or to express, or better yet, to explain what we're feeling, which is the key part of this, it takes effort. And even when we're feeling emotional, we don't even know half the time what the emotion is. So we're going to got to sort of move outside of it and then look at it and go, what is that emotion I'm feeling right now? So as much as I hate to say it, it's like we feel like we're moving through molasses by relativity to women's feeling of emotions. So there's a disparity of speed, which is one of the problems that comes up because women think again that men feel like they do. So because they feel emotions immediately, men should, and not only that, women don't only feel emotions immediately, they know what they're feeling. They know what those emotions are. They can express them. They clarify. It's like that I'm feeling is this, this, and this, whatever it is. Whereas for men, frankly, we're navigating through molasses, that sort of pace. So I understand how it's so frustrating for women. It's also frustrating for us because the other part is because we are wired as men in the masculine, speaking again, overlaying generally masculinity with men just to make it easier, is that we don't do one thing at a time really well. We don't multitask well. So when a woman asks a question differently, we're now choosing like, which question do I answer now? So we've got to figure that one out first. Then we can get to which question we start to answer. Because you ladies are gifted with the ability you can multitask and handle 3, 4 things at once, no problem. We're really good at one, and we've got to practice to do 2. And there's some men are much more skilled at this, but again, general answer here. So the emotional language that we work with, first of all, is archaic and it's slower to develop. And secondly, we need time to figure that out. So what you said, right, with your then boyfriend before you became your husband, he was masterful in the sense because he told you what was going on, which is he didn't have an answer for you, but he wants you to know he didn't have an answer, but he'll get back to you with the answer later on. And that's masterful in a way, even though it's not like emotional mastery. It is at least making sure you understand what's going on for him, which is magical.
One of the things I've learned is people in sales can sometimes know that particular point, not more about women, but they know to inform you about what's going on because they're used to doing that in their sales life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is such a fun subject. We're going to go off to a commercial and then we'll come back.
We'll be talking about more of this in much deeper levels, so stay with us.
Yeah. Hi, we're back. This is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and we're talking about why don't men emote like women? And Barry made this really great point about how we're zipping along completely in touch with every emotion we're feeling and what's going on with them. And the men are like, wait, there's a feeling. What's the feeling? And it feels like molasses. And I was thinking about how women are in the rapids. We're just like whooshing down the water, full speed ahead. And you're like, wait, I have to put one foot in front of the other. And the thing I want to say out loud, that not just are you like that, and there's all these reasons that you're like that because you were raised, it's because it's so important to you, really important to answer us with the true answer. I'm like so excited every time that I go, what are they going to tell me? Because they're really thinking about it. And I love when they go, let me think about it. And I'm like, I've learned to feel really important. I replace the impatience with important. That's really
that's the thing is that, because they want to make sure that they give you what you really want. So they obviously care about you enough to do that. So it's not like they're just saying, I'll get back to you later, like flippantly. No, they're taking to heart that they want to communicate back to you so that you get what they're talking about because they value your experience and your reception of what they're saying. So yeah, absolutely worthwhile.
Oh, that impatient was bad. It was bad because I got more impatient. He got more frustrated when I used to do it badly before I learned how to do it different because of our big part of Allison Armstrong. So when I changed it to he's pausing, I'm pausing because this is important to me to learn. And it's important for him to tell me, to reveal. The other thing that I know about men, partly a lot to do with how you're raised, to reveal something that's really dear to you, you will wait and look and test and see, because you're not going to do it if there's danger. That would be silly because you would not want to go to battle feeling like your underbelly's exposed. You're not going to be telling which is why you often, there's a funny little side about you just make plans and you don't generally tell us the plans. And it's not that you think we're the enemy, but for so long it was the enemy might find out. So you don't tell. And I had to finally learn to say, oh, I need to stop every couple of hours on a car trip. I just need to get out and stretch my legs. I'd love it if a place where I could go to the bathroom. Because if I told them at the last minute, they're like, there's really no good place, but I would plan it. So if I tell them, there'd be stop. Do you need to stop? We're here. It's been 2 hours, just checking. I'm like, oh, and I would feel so important because I'd opened my pretty little mouth and said, this is important to me. Please include this in your plans. Yeah, we're at such cross purposes for such good reasons of how we were raised, but it's so unproductive and it causes so many splits, huh?
Oh God, that's it. And the thing is, it is recognizing that, we don't share as much as we could or should at the same time, because like saying the women also oftentimes, and this is another part of the challenge for men, when women share what's going on for them in the emotional experience, it's the other way around. Instead of being not enough, it's almost too much. And so we get overloaded in a sense because we don't have the capacity or the languaging to understand the range of what you're feeling. And so it's almost like it'd be nice on the other side of things if you would be willing to ask us first, do we have the capacity to hold for you when you're feeling stuff? Not to say we need to understand everything. Talking about the thing, and just to sidebar slightly, when I was talking about women's upset, when I met, he was like, our challenge is like, we need to be the lighthouse in the storm. Like, we need to hold this space. We don't need to understand what's going on. We should be present. But if you want to share something that we want us to hear and understand when you're not in that turmoil state, then being able to communicate and be received is kind of like, can you ask us first? Because we're not wired naturally to do that. The other way around, yes. Although it doesn't hurt a man to ask permission of his woman as well, because that's respectful both ways. But the understanding that we are different and recognizing the gift of that versus the curse of that. Because some people look at that and say, it's like, it was so different, we can't understand each other. It's like, that's good news, not bad news. How do we make that work for us?
And from both sides to say, I just need you to listen. It's needed witness. I'm just going to complain about my day, or because men, lots of men don't want to talk about their day when they get home. They put it aside. They're really good at putting it aside. I mean, it's put aside. You're in a much better mood when you come home if you put it away. We're still riled up about work.
Right.
And so to find out, is this a person that really needs to, wants to, because we like, but I don't feel included. I want you to talk about your day. I don't feel important. Are you hiding stuff? Is there something you don't? I mean, the stuff, the overthinking we women do. So to have had this conversation about what kind of a person are you and what works, and since I need to feel connected and you don't do that, what other way could I feel connected to you, about hearing about what's going on in your life? Because that's a lot of what we do with our women friends, is we talk about what's going on in our life. So how do we still get this great connection if that's not your way of connecting? So we have to talk about it. So what would be a way that you think that it would be a great way that a guy, you'd say, yeah, I could connect over that?
It's hard to say, because the challenge, because like you're saying earlier, we do like keep things to ourselves. We don't normally share a lot of stuff in that way. It's almost like asking what is it she wants to hear, what she want to find out, what she want to know about us, and then we can share that place. So it's really not so much about what we share, it's more about how we share it and how we get received. This is something we took in the article. I just want to speak to this people for a second too. When a woman has emotional stability in herself, when she's really got herself on balance, she's much more able to work with a man who's learning how to be emotionally expressive. But if a woman is unfortunately in her emotional turmoil and not able to communicate or hold a space that's even keeled, we can't facilitate. We can't work with that. It's like, we're basically like, you know what? I'm alien planet. I'm going somewhere else. So there's a challenge for us to be able to be around our woman. And it's interesting because when we don't have to feel our emotions, we can be so strong and so present and so available for our partner to feel emotional and distress and everything else. But when we're in that unknown experience of feeling, that challenge of feeling, then it's like we don't know how to be with our partner, because we have to turn that off to be present. But she wants to know how we feel, so we get this confusion inside. So we don't know how to be communicative.
So here's the way that when you talk about an emotionally mature, because women are always complaining that men are not emotionally mature. If you're an emotionally mature woman, if you've really learned to be that, you'd be amazed at the kind of information that you'll get from a man. So you talked about how you hold the space for us, when we're upset and we need comforting or we need your advice. This is where women need to learn to hold the space, because you see, 70-80% of the videos are about, this is what men should be doing for women. And most of them, yeah, sure, they're nice about it. They give really good advice. And there's so few, I keep trying to add some, and I find a few where the woman says, this is what we should be doing for men. Or the man, heaven forbid, says, this is what women need to be doing for us. That we are your teachers. We really are your teachers on how to be with your emotion and to make it a safe container for you, and not ever make fun, not ever say disparaging things about anything that you're feeling. Because first, it's baby brand new and nobody's good at stuff right away. And to be excited and encouraging, because my husband kept saying, not always positive, some more positive as we went. He'd never had these kind of questions and information wanting to learn about him. And then I just wait, and he got more and more comfortable that I wasn't going to yell at him. I wasn't going to give him shit about it. And that there was more layers and levels that he got to practice. It was really lovely. So we need to own our responsibility as women to create the space, create the atmosphere, to allow, not to drag it out of them or tell them how they should be doing it differently. Because, like the whole dishwasher thing, there's only one way to do this. That we leave the space open. And what will happen is, as you found in your life experience, that the more you do it and it's comfortable, the sharing, not comfortable in your body, but nothing horrible happens. You're like, oh, okay, I could practice that a little more. I could do that a little more. And that's the only way you're going to get good at it, is have a place to practice. And the most big compliment that I have learned to hear is when a man tells me he feels safe to be with me emotionally. I want all the
Yeah.
other safe part to be on his. I want it to be his job. I want all
Yep.
the other safe. Really, I want you to make me feel physically safe, and I take care of all that. Walk around every night and make sure all the wind. I love all that. That piece is, it's like the Holy Grail. That's how
Yeah.
it feels. And look how your face looks. When men get a chance to do that, they're like,
Because it's not safe otherwise, usually.
no.
So absolutely, to have that capacity with our partner to be held in that space where it's okay to feel, because again, we don't feel safe with it. It's not our common experience. So we have been, again, raised, we're trained to think that being emotional was a weakness, that it was being girly, wasn't being a true man if you showed emotions. So to have a partner who we want to impress all the time, let us be that, quote, weak in our sense, to be that emotive, and not judge it, but to make it safe and make it holy and make it respectful, is a gift that is transcendent, frankly. It's so powerful because we don't generally walk around as men letting our emotions experience, except anger. I mean, road rage is a thing in LA for that reason, because there's no other way of expressing emotion. And one of the things I've been found is very easy for me now is when I start getting triggered, I can move. It's a little gift I've discovered. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I've just discovered a gift when something triggers me, gets me upset. I can often move into something akin to laughter and joy quickly because I recognize the futility of the upset. There's part of me that shifted. That happened this morning. I was it's totally out of left field. But anyway, I was at Costco this morning because I went to go this morning to figure out, because I haven't seen how crowded it is in the morning, usually in the afternoon. And I was waiting to get to a parking spot because it's still crowded in the parking lot. And a parking spot opened up, and this woman coming the other way tried to drive into the spot, and I got in before her. And she's blowing a horn, getting upset with me. And I was about to get upset with her, and I started laughing because going like, "Look, I was the second car in line because like I was waiting for somebody else. So the car, I was behind that car, but the person coming the other way could see me, but she tried to cut her head and get in the spot. And I said, no. And I basically pointed and said, when I'm watching, I've been there 5 minutes longer than you have waiting for this spot. But I walked away laughing to myself. I wasn't upset about it because the recognition, because something happened a little bit later on where I got, quote, stuck behind somebody and didn't get to have something. I started laughing because I'm going like, it doesn't make any sense to get upset about these things. There really is pointless. And so one of my gifts in the lessons I've learned over many years is how upset needs to be reserved for something really upsetting, because a lot of times the upset we have as men is really piddling stuff. It's like it's better to laugh at it because the futility, because in 5 minutes it's done. Because the other challenge of through emotions is that because we take so long to get emotions understood and recognized, we hold on to them longer usually. So women, that emotional transition is very, very quick. They move through 10 emotions in the time it takes us to go through one, because the way that women are wired emotionally, way men are wired emotionally. Again, the difference is why we feel that way. But the recognition is that the more we can move out of the dark emotions into the lighter ones, not to avoid, but because we've handled ourselves in a better way, it's a gift to be able to be that way.
So the thing I've learned about men is you really do, it takes you longer for sure. You work through it. You just do. We really do hold on to it more than we'd like and you'd like, because we're going to bring something up 6 months later that you did that we
Yeah.
aren't over yet
You have,
about the whole
you have,
relational
you
thing.
have a finding, you have an enviable finding system we don't have.
And we could pull it up in a second.
Yeah.
So learning when you get dysregulated, how can you re-regulate yourself again?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is part of your DNA as men in general to either stuff it, which is really bad for your physical and emotional and mental, or get really mad, which doesn't
Mm-hmm.
always turn out really well either, unless it's a violent situation. So one of the things that I've had couples talk about when they've now gotten to a safe place
Mm-hmm.
is some men say, I need a look or I need a touch. That's all I need. I just need a little, not a disapproving, not an anger, just a little, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that sucked. Just the, but when you've been together a while, you can have that. Or just a little, not even saying anything, just a little, and they're like, okay,
A
good. It's,
connection.
it's what
Yeah.
we do with the horses. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they think everything's scary, and even if there's nothing, they think it's scary. And our job is to, for them in that moment, it's okay, hun. It's okay. This thing weighs 4 times more than me. And I just, it's okay. And they, you know, they blow and carry on and move their head and talk about it a little with their mouth. And then we move on. And so if we could work that out to use our strength to help you in this moment when you just need a little extra boost. You just need a little somebody. From watching Blue Bloods, I learned we're watching your six. You're behind. That's your back. I loved
Yeah.
learning that. I thought it was like such a, I feel like so in now. But to have that agreement, because we want you to hold us when we're sad and we want you to be mad at our best friend if we're mad at them. We want you jumping on the bandwagon. So it seems kind of fair to say, okay, hon, when you're having a whole bunch going on, what is the way that I can support you?
Yeah. That'll be a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the thing. And for ladies listening, it's not about accommodating or anything other than it's out of respect. Because the challenge is, again, like we said all the way through this conversation, for men, emotions are a new language in a way for us, a different language that we're used to speaking and be understanding. So because you women generally are comfortable, or should say experienced with this in a way that we aren't, having your participation in holding space for us is transcendent for us. It's a gift that really makes us feel safe. And as much as we are the hero, the warrior, everything else, there's also a little boy in here.
Mm-hmm.
And to be feel safe in the space of a woman we're with is a gift beyond compare.
Beyond compare. There's no substitute. So I
Right.
feel obligated to say out loud, because we really haven't said it in this talk, we say it all the time. We're talking about good men. We're not talking
Yes.
about bad men. We're not talking about putting up with anybody's bullshit. We're not talking about anybody's violence, anybody's bad behavior. None, absolutely none. Barry and I will say it till the cows come home. We're talking about good, real men that are doing their best to be their best person with all everybody's baggage that we've drug up from our childhood. And yeah, we need to work on our own stuff, but I'm so clear about we need to work on our single stuff before we get in a relationship.
Oh
And
yeah,
then the
absolutely.
relationship, more stuff's going to come up because you can't work on relationship stuff if you're not in a relationship. So when this kind of stuff comes up, and you'll just know he's being vulnerable, he's being open, he's being practicing this weird new thing that he's feeling about you or around you, because we do bring it out in you. We just do. And don't realize,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you know, that saying, Jack Nicholson in one of his movies said, you make me want to be a better man.
Hmm.
I hear men say this all the time.
Yeah.
Or you want to be a better man for us. And it makes you a better man, period, in your business life, in your personal life, with your friends, with your family, not just us, but we are often the impetus and the catalyst and the encouragement, especially if you care about us and our opinion about you, blah,
Mhm.
it's kind of off the scale then.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the men's work that's out there, in some ways it was really important, but it sometimes missed the mark because a lot of men's work out there didn't cover the emotions except to let men vent. And it was like, it was part of the picture, but not the whole picture. Because what I really know from my own work in the work I've been on for many years is learning how to be facile with our own emotions is something that we have yet to learn how to be fully naturally. We don't get it growing up, but we can do it. And a lot of the men's work out there, it pays lip service to that, but doesn't dive into that. So it's one thing I've always felt needs to be added to the men's work out there. That I've done quite a lot of it myself, and a lot of the men's work is really about standing in our strength and, like, beating our chests and being heroes and stuff, which is great, but it's part of the picture. And it isn't something that's taught in school. It's not taught growing up for most of us. So we don't necessarily have the wherewithal, the understanding how to be emotionally aligned and have emotional maturity and emotional mastery, because that's something that I wish all men would have, because it will give us such a great advantage in the world and for us to play and thrive and serve and be in great relationships. So yeah, this is the work that we need to be doing more of. Absolutely.
The harmonious balance. That's really what I keep watching happen with the men that I coach, the men that you coach, that
Yep.
this part inside of them that's going to help them feel like they're having much more balance inside, which then translate to balance outside. Because we all have a masculine and feminine side inside of us. And so often men were told or assumed when somebody said, "Oh, I like the feminine side of you," that was bad. I had a conversation recently with somebody and he said that, and I said, "Well, that's interesting. Would you like my thought about that?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "Because I can't imagine being with a man that didn't have a well-developed feminine side, because I want that comforting. I want that peace. I want that glomming onto me." And it comes from that feminine side of wanting to create a partnership with me on this romantic way, not just in a
Yeah.
business way. And if you don't allow that to develop inside of you, it seems to me you'll continue to feel out of balance, that you're always having to even more emphasize it's very masculine, but you'll keep having to emphasize your masculine side without feeling the balance. So he said, because people were saying, well, gosh, you change diapers, or, you cook food. And I said, well, you can still do that from a masculine side, but the feminine side for me is how you support me emotionally, how you share emotionally with me, because it's not a natural masculine thing to do. So he was like, it was one of the people that said, "I'll get back to you. I'm going to think about it," because it was such a big new thought for him.
This is a conversation that can go much more beyond this episode, but I know we need to wrap up because we've had a long conversation. But definitely,
Yeah,
there's something.
I think we might need a part 2.
I think so. Yeah. I'll save it for then.
Yeah, I think so too. Really, absolutely. We need to. There's so much now that we've covered this much. We needed this much, but now we can do even more of the deep stuff, don't you think?
Yeah.
So we'll put that on the books for January for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of this has rung true to you, or you are feeling, wow, I'd like more of that, I want to learn more about that, I need more of that in my life, I and Barry would be so happy to talk to you. So the best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. You go to the middle of my page where it says, "What's holding you back from love?" questionnaire. You click on that. There's 10 brief questions about where you are and where you'd like to be. And then it'll give you access to my calendar. You can make a complimentary conversation at your leisure. You can also join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat of the podcast. You'll also find out what I'm doing next in my business and personal life. And then you can also scroll down to the bottom of that homepage and you'll see all the icons for my social media of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. You can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com and I'll answer you within 24 hours. And tell people how to get a hold of you, Mr. Barry.
Certainly. Well, this is something that's been on my mind a lot recently. Some conversation I had recently in that article I shared with you, which I'll definitely share with anybody who wants it. If you want to reach out to me, go to my website, which is barryselby.com. And on my page, on the home screen of my page, sorry, the home page of my website is the right language. There are 3 options provided for you. The top one is basically an invitation to have a conversation with me, a consult, discovery session, free gift, we will call that. It's a 20-minute chat, and you fill out a form similar to what Christine has. Different questions. I don't know what questions you have, but our questions are probably similar. But also you get on my calendar and we'll schedule time to talk and see where you are and what you're looking for. And if you want to help on the emotional side or whatever you're working with, definitely I can help you with that. At the bottom of the screen is my email list. You can join there if you just want to opt in to be on my email list. I send out emails every week with a replay of the show, other things I'm working on. I got some new things brewing for the new year I want to share as well. In the middle of the screen is my relationship readiness assessment quiz, which I built a few months ago now. But if you want to get that quiz, you just click on that, or you go to barryselby.com/quiz, either way, and you take that quiz, which give you some feedback on your readiness for your next relationship. So that's a little thing you can invest in. Also, my website is my book, online courses, other things too. So definitely peruse my site and check out some things I've got going on. And on social media, you can find me. My name is my handle on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. And on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. So do check out my stuff. If you want to send me an email, if you want to get that article, for example, email me at barry@barryselby.com and I'll send it back to you. And if you want to reach out for direct help, you know how to reach me.
It was a great article. I ended up sharing it and printed it out. I liked it so much, and we have so much more to talk about. So we are here live every week on Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern. So we'd love for you to join us live. You can also watch us on repeat on Roku and Apple TV. And then you can also take us with you if you're out and about, huh, Barry?
Absolutely, yes. We are now on the podcast platform. So if you happen to listen to Apple Podcasts or listening on Spotify or even on Amazon Podcasts, you can find us out there. We got all our episodes. About every month we upload the latest round. So I think up until last week or the week before, up and running now. So you can listen to us anytime you want. And frankly, you can binge us wherever you go, wherever you listen to. If you're out driving, hiking, shopping, working out, whatever you're doing, you can take us with you wherever you go.
And whether you're watching us or listening to us while you're binging, we'd love for you to share it with other people who might be having some challenges in their dating and relationship life, and like us and subscribe and give us stars because you like us so much. We're so likable.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and we hope that this was helpful, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
We'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves.
Bye for now.